Well, before we embark on all of that, it's 7 o'clock, so maybe we should hold this meeting.
To be continued.
Yep, to be continued. So let me start the introduction. As a preliminary matter, this is Larry Murphy, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos.
Yes. Sir.
George Morris.
Yes.
Woody Knight.
Yes.
Mary Stone.
Indeed, I am.
Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor, Planning Director.
Yes.
Kristen Grubbs, Assistant Town Planner.
Yes.
And if for anticipated speakers and presenters on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Michael McNiff.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you, Michael. Bob Griffin.
Right here.
Tom Woodruff from Governor's Academy.
Not yet.
No, Wendy Reed or Mark Beaudry. I believe we're expecting all three
We are.
from Governors. TJ Melvin from Millennium Engineering.
He'll probably be joining us around 7:30.
Okay, and then Michael DeSantis. Last, I have my list of speakers from Crane Properties. I guess they'll be coming later.
Probably the
So-
same.
Okay, this May 17th, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, till March 31, 2025. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join us by going to http://zoom.us and entering meeting ID number 832-714-1305-7141-3056, or by calling 1-929-205-6099 US, New York, and entering meeting ID number when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and the attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through local access cable channel 9 on Zoom and at www.tnctv.org, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the board members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and, if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention after you have been called. Some of the meeting business ground rules. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using your mute button or on your phone *6 to toggle mute or unmute when you are not speaking. Please use earbuds or earphones with tablets and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. For public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will see questions and comments through the Zoom raised hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the gray hand that appears. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list, and you may rename yourself by using the More function next to your name. For telephone participants to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your keypad. I will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raised hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address and then ask a question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant or participant or his or her representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you've been given the floor for your questions. I will then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again afford the participant, applicant, or representative an opportunity to speak. Should there be a physical or electronic submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. And again, the participant, applicant, or representative will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. And finally, note that each vote taken at this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And I want to just take a second before turning to the agenda. And as I think everyone here knows now, we have a vacancy on the board, Leslie Matthews having resigned as a result of her election to the Board of Selectmen. I just want to congratulate Leslie on her election and offer my own appreciation for all her years of service. Leslie has been a very diligent member of this board, and on a personal level, I would say it has been a pleasure to work with, and I only want to wish her the best going forward. And I'm sure she will. I hope she'll enjoy her time on the select board. So we have a few minutes before we get to our two public public hearings rather. So let me turn to the first item on the agenda, which is liaison reports. And Leslie was our liaison to the select board, so obviously we won't be hearing from her. Martha, is there anything you would have?
Not really. There's been no, the last select board meeting was not held because it was election day. The next one is going to be on the 23rd, so next Tuesday. The one item that's of interest to the board is that Rob Rosine has been working through the conservation restriction amendment related to the utility access road for the Borrego, the original Borrego project on the Acer property. And Essex County Greenbelt and the state have all agreed to the language. So that's going to be before the select board on Tuesday for their approval. Then it will go to the state to be signed.
Okay, thank you, Martha. For ZBA, their regular monthly meeting is tomorrow night, and there is one item on the agenda, and it's a special permit to raise an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling on pilings with an increase in height. The property is located at 6 Olga Way on Plum Island. And that's all I have for the ZBA. Pete, anything from the Conservation Commission?
Conservation met last night. We had a very, very light meeting, which was great. Nothing really related to the board. I'll just announce that starting July 1st, conservation meetings will be starting at 6 p.m. Instead of 7 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And Martha, MVPC?
MVPC, there have been no meetings since our last meeting. The commissioners' meeting is tomorrow. And the main thing on the agenda for that will be a presentation on the draft comprehensive economic development strategy plan, which Kristen talked about, I think, at our last meeting.
Okay, good. Thank you. We've still got about 6 minutes to go before the public hearings. Martha, do you want to do your director's report at this point?
Sure, I've got a few things here. Actually a couple more things related to MVPC. So we applied for and have received a grant from Mass Housing Partnership for technical assistance for MBTA communities. Zoning, it's called 3A TA. 3A is the legislation section and TA is the technical assistance. And we requested, if possible, that MVPC be our technical assistant or consultant for this effort. And Kristen and I met with them today, three of them, Ian Burns and Lauren Kiesling and Michaela Miner, who does their GIS, to start talking about a scope of work. Katie Lacey from MHP also joined us. So Ian will be drafting a scope of work for this effort. It will get reviewed by us, approved by Mass Housing Partnership, and then we should be off and running in about a couple of weeks on that. So they'll be helping us with identifying districts, determining density using their compliance model to do this effort, then working with us on drafting the zoning. And they know that our target is actually to get this before town meeting next April. So at some point, we'll be talking more about process. It might be appropriate at some point to have a joint select board, planning board meeting on this. And some more engagement with the planning board. I think they're estimating about 3 nighttime meetings. And they'll also be providing us with information to put on the website. Kristen has created a web page on our website for the MBTA communities zoning, and we'll be adding to that as we go forward. Also, we've had a meeting actually that stretched over a couple of days with Lauren from MVPC regarding the housing production plan, going through past strategies to see what's still relevant, what what we might carry forward. And that was also a productive discussion. She has suggested they're also doing a data review now, so they would like to meet with the board probably sometime in June, depending on what our schedule looks like, to do a data presentation. The planning board members are really our stakeholder committee, and as well as Cindy Courier, the director of the Council on Aging. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to join us as well. So maybe when we have a better sense of our public hearing continuances, we can decide which date might be best for that discussion to happen. Or we could also schedule a special meeting if that seems better. Couple of other things, 7 Larkin Road, you may recall we had the discussion with Michael Shea and Chris Coughlin and Sam Colombo about that. They've developed a revised plan, which they would like to bring back before the board for another informal discussion. So we can, again, look at schedule. They've asked to be on the next meeting agenda, so we'll see how that looks for that night. And another application that's coming in is a common driveway special permit application for it's an existing common driveway on Bittersweet Lane that serves 2 lots right now, and they want to add a 3rd to it. So a couple of sneak previews. And that's it for me.
Well, we still got a few more minutes before we can get into the public hearings. Looking at the rest of the agenda, we don't have any old business. I don't think we have time to get into the new business just yet. And we don't have any meeting minutes for a review and approval tonight, so.
Yeah, I
Yes,
apologize. I didn't get those out.
all right. So got about another minute to go.
Breathe hard.
What's that, Mary?
I said to everybody, breathe hard.
Well, we've got, not opening the hearings at this point, but we do have several. We've got 2 public hearings for 170 Orchard Street, a definitive subdivision plan and common driveway special permit, and then site plan review for the Governor's Academy. So we'll take up 170 Orchard Street. That's the next item on the agenda. And then after that, we'll get to the site plan for Governor's Academy. And
One minute to go.
yeah. There it is, it's 7:15. Okay, so we can turn to the first public hearing on the agenda. Our concurrent public hearings, these are continuances for 170 Orchard Street, map R20, lot 43A. The owner applicant, the estate of Louis Bulgaris, care of Diane Yurkovich, continued from 4/19/23. And these are 2, as I said, concurrent public hearings. One for a definitive subdivision plan application for Fields Way 170 Orchard Street, and a common driveway special permit application for a common driveway serving 2 lots is proposed for the Fields Way subdivision, 170 Orchard Street. And I believe we have Michael McNiff and Bob Griffin are here on this matter. Gentlemen, before we get into the hearing, you heard me, and I'm sure you were aware of this, but we have a vacancy on the board now with Leslie Matthews' resignation, which means that for the subdivision, we only have 4 eligible voting members now, which would require 3 positive votes to pass the subdivision, and have to be unanimous on the special permit for the common driveway. Are you comfortable going forward under these circumstances?
Yeah, I think for tonight, we'd like to go forward and, have this discussion. If, if we need to resubmit information later and, file a new application, I suppose we can do that, but we're prepared to go forward this evening.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to
Yeah.
give you an option.
Okay.
So I understand you have submitted revised plans showing a reconfiguration of the lots to create that separate parcel to remain in agricultural use. We have received your HOA draft documents and easements. They'll need to be reviewed by staff and town council before being reviewed by the board. But if you would, please just give us an update on, the new plan and where we're going.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. And as I'm getting going here, I'm just going to caution us that I've got an MBTA commuter line that runs close to my office, and there's a train due at 7:18 and another one due at 7:19. So as soon as I hear it, I'll mute my microphone, but
Duly noted.
okay. Okay, so this was the plan as of our last get together, and at that time we were sent away with a little bit of homework. I'll talk about that. Since the last meeting, we also had an opportunity to we had a site walk with the Conservation Commission. We had a Conservation Commission hearing, and we have received an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. A slightly different plan than this. I'll show you that in 1 second here. I'm sorry, what? Anyway, so we've received an order of conditions from the Concom about a week and a half ago. So that was good news. The only change that sort of showed up by the time of the Concom hearing was the addition of this little easement here. And you would note that this easement, which provides access to the agricultural land, requires removal of some vegetation in the buffer zone. So that was why we felt it was important to get this in front of the Conservation Commission. So this is part of the approved conservation documents. And then a couple of days later, after we got through that process, we were addressing again the homework that you sort of asked us to deal with. And so we've done a couple of things with this plan. One is that we've sort of created a lot line to separate the agricultural land from the residential land. And so it begins back here by Pearson Drive, and it comes down, runs across here, and then back towards the cul-de-sac. Essentially, and I've got a better graphic that will show this, but the agricultural parcel has no frontage, which I think is good, because there was some concerns expressed about, somebody trying to use it in the future for development. And Mr. McNiff has had some discussions with the Greenbelt manager. They're certainly interested in this arrangement as well. So I think that's all moving forward in a positive manner. We also added to the plan a requirement to place a split rail fence or similar delineation line here at the agricultural parcel. Oh, here comes that train. All right, that was train one. Sorry about that. And then, so let's see. So I'm gonna, this graphic, I think, sort of more clearly shows the agricultural land from the residential parcels. So parcels, 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are our the same lots that we've been showing you for some time now. The lot lines here extending out to 3 and 4 have gotten a little bit skinnier, and that was really just to maximize the amount of agricultural land that gets conveyed. And again, there'll be a small easement here to provide access to the agricultural land. But we're looking at a 14.1 acre conveyance to Greenbelt. Of that 14.1 acres, the speckled area there is the current agricultural land, which is 7.7 acres. So a little bit more than 50% of that parcel is agricultural use. We were reminded by the Conservation Commission at our last hearing that you can't really expand the agricultural land into the wooded wetlands here under the Wetlands Protection Act. There is an exemption for agricultural lands, but given the layout of the wetland boundary within parcel A, it doesn't look like there's really any opportunities to expand the area that's agriculturally maintained at this point in time. Maybe a little bit of land up here by Pearson, but I think that would be about the extent of it. So I think it remains pretty much as is. Mr. McNiff has had some conversations with the farmer, Mr. Herrick, who has been planting corn there the last several years. He wants to continue doing what he's doing, and he's had some conversations with Greenbelt. Mrs. Brown, I think is her name. Yep. And they're certainly prepared to move forward with this parcel and appreciate the layout. And they also mentioned that there might be some nearby land to add to parcel A in the future. So I think that was all sort of very encouraging. Back to our homework here for a second. These are the tighter lot lines connecting, lots 3 and 4. Again, primary purpose of this was to maximize the amount of agricultural land. And here's that easement coming from the cul-de-sac out into the agricultural land. Out at Orchard Street, there was some questions about the telephone pole. And so Mr. McNiff filed a work request with National Grid to move the pole. The National Grid representative came out and looked at the pole, and he says, well, we've got to replace this pole anyways. It's not tall enough for the wires that are on it. And so at the time that pole is moved, it would be located closer to the stone wall, essentially providing more separation distance between the roadway and the pole. We also pushed the center line of the road away from the telephone pole about 5 feet, just to give us a little bit extra buffer, and that's this area right here. There's a second train, sorry about this. Okay, that's the second one.
Well, it's nice to know the trains are running on time anyway.
I'll say. Okay. Let's see. So I think somebody at the meeting had also asked about, trying to change this to a 3-lot project instead of a 4-lot project. And, when we came to you last June with this plan, we had some specific instructions from the seller of the property, and I think they really wanted a 5-lot project minimum, and we convinced them that 4 was really the maximum that the planning board was comfortable with. We've spoken to them about the 3, and they're not interested in a 3. 3 doesn't work for Mr. McNiff either. Just the cost of the road is just simply too expensive. And so I think, if the planning board can't see their way to, approving this plan or something pretty close to it, I think the land ends up going back on the market. And I feel like we put a lot of work into this project. I feel like we've responded to all the town's questions, tried to give you all the information. We've certainly done a lot of work on characterizing soils and getting through the wetlands process. And so I feel like, I think this is a good project. I think you've got 20 acres of land here. Most of this ends up going into conservation. Most of this ends up in continued agricultural use. And we really like the plan and would like to move forward with this. So I hope you can see your way to get there. And I think that's about all I had.
Okay, let me turn to the board members. Pete?
Yes, first off, thank you for the homework, bringing in the homework assignment. It is appreciating the reconfiguration with regards to the telephone pole and working on these lot lines. Now, I think we're probably going to have a little discussion about how the lot line change might affect the common driveway. So we're going to probably have to have that conversation a little bit. But I want to hear from other board members and then kind of circle back after we have kind of a full discussion, if that's okay with you, Larry.
Okay. George,
Yeah, I would say at first blush, I like the way it's presented. I'd like to see a little more about the common driveways, of course, but I will just comment at that. It looks good to me.
okay. Thank you, George. Woody?
Okay.
I think it looks good. I like the changes you've made, and I'm also, as already stated, interested in the common driveway discussion. So,
Yeah.
that's it.
Thank you, Woody. Mary?
Greenbelt acreage.
So we got 14.1 acres in parcel A. And of that, 7.7 is, agricultural used land.
Right. Okay. And they're okay with it? Greenbelt?
Yep, I mean, they haven't taken an official vote, but we've shown this plan to them several times now, and they like it.
And how do they become engaged officially?
So we would, it's unclear at this time if this ends up being a 99-year lease or a conveyance of the land, a fee simple conveyance. We understand that the fee simple conveyance is preferred by them. Frankly, it's probably preferred by us as well. But we haven't finalized those arrangements, but this is clearly what we want to do.
Okay, and you're pretty sure it's going to go through this way? You presented it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So just to clarify, the common driveway, it would still remain approximately the same length and width?
Yeah, yeah, so I can, here's the April plan. I'm going to scroll and you'll be able to see the changes as I scroll. But if you look at the building on lot 4, you'll see it moves a little closer to lot 3 in the last version, but not very much. And that's the only change. So there's May 1st, and there's May 2nd. So the driveway is in the same location it always has been. The reason we pushed the lot 4 house a little closer to lot 3 was to make a little bit more room at the end of the driveway for the farmer to get past and to get out into the agricultural area.
Now I'm confused. I thought the agricultural easement would be further back by the cul-de-sac or the access.
Okay, so the access is here. What's going on is that you have these wooded areas that come up, like here's one, and the agricultural field goes up and around the wooded area. And then there's a little bit of a wooded area here as well that he has to drive past. And with the Conservation Commission's caution to us about not trying to take down woodlands and create agricultural land in the future, we wanted to make a little bit more room to make sure it was easy to get a tractor and equipment into the far agricultural fields past the common driveway.
I see. So the agricultural access easement would not be over the common driveway.
No, at that point, they would, at the end of the common driveway, they're on their own land.
I understand now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I know one of the criteria for the common driveway special permit is you have to demonstrate that there's adequate access without the common driveway. I think you did that in the first iteration of the plan, but do you see any issues here with this new iteration?
No, and I can go back to that earlier plan, but you can remember, this was the old lot lines and we had, access to lot 4 coming around, between the detention pond and here. So here was our frontage coming down, all upland, travel all the way out to our house. So we felt that was a viable driveway access plan. And I think that, so now we still have, in theory, this frontage here. We can come down between the detention pond and go through this 20-foot wide strip out to our property as well.
Okay. And to get back to your earlier comment about reducing this to 3 lots, if you reconfigured lots 3 and 4 into one larger lot with a duplex, that wouldn't work for you?
No, yeah, the road's just too expensive. I'm sorry. Hi, Michael McNabb. Thank you. And I'm here on behalf of the trust. I'm not buying the property. I just wanted to clarify that. The size of the road, the requirements of the road, becoming more affordable. I hate to make it a financial question, but it is. And a duplex just diminishes it too much. And we've talked to the trustees, and there are a lot of trustees, it seems, involved in this project. They will put it back on the market and try another avenue. We were hoping this was well planned out, and we still hope it is, that you can hang your hat on it as a good plan for the neighbors. And with the Greenbelt, and Martha can attest to that. I think I got the same answer, that they were very optimistic and excited about it, but they won't vote on it until the plan is a little more secure, and then they'll bring it to their board. But they liked it. In addition to that, there was other land by Balgaris that is mostly conservation land that was in back, that I can't promise her, but I might be able to help her. And I don't know how many acres that was, Bob. It's
This parcel. there.
yeah, no, it's quite a bit down there, right?
Yeah.
And they take land, not only agricultural, which is preferred, but they also will take it for wetland conservation, which was good to hear. And I told them I'd help them.
Yeah, no, it struck me with that proposal about 3 lots. I think it would probably simplify things in the sense that I believe you could probably do it without a special permit for a common driveway, and it wouldn't need that that septic mound in the back of lot 2. Anyway, let me go back to the board members now. Pete, is there anything you wanted to add?
So, team, I did a little homework, and I asked our town staff to look, and we're looking for creative ways to maybe make this really flow easy. And I know we just mentioned duplex, and it didn't seem like it went anywhere. But there are 2 duplexes that are on 58 and 60 Hanover and Newburyport. They were done maybe 5 years ago. I might be wrong on the date. And when the last one sold, which was in 2020, it sold for $800,000. It has an estimated value of 1.2, depending 1 to 1.2. Now that's a significant number. And from my perspective, I think that's a potential market. And people tend to downplay duplexes, but depending on how they're laid out and what's put in, when I started thinking about it, and again, I'm not a contractor, and I do not want to in any way suppose anything, but one foundation, one set of pipes coming in, if I just think that way, it's like you do a couple of those and all of a sudden it's a different market, but it's a market that sells, and people are interested in that type of an approach. So I'm just conveying that. But I just want to ask, is it okay if I ask Martha and Kristen if they have any concerns or comments as to where we are right now, or suggestions?
That's fine, Pete.
Thanks.
I guess my concern really goes back to the plan for the common driveway. As Bob said, the original plan, and Bob, I don't know if you could pull it up, and I don't know actually if it's useful, did show, the potential for access to lot 4. So Bob, I'm thinking about the plan that actually had it was in the application, not in the plan set.
So I'm sorry, Martha, which plan are we looking for?
It was a plan that showed the individual driveway for lot 4, showing that both lots could actually be accessed from their frontage. And I guess it's probably not necessary. My one concern is that seemed to be workable. With this new plan, you've got 2 strips of frontage, and the access, if you were to actually try to put a driveway in on the current plan for lot 4, it would be very difficult for, say, a fire engine, an emergency response vehicle to get down that if it were actually constructed that way. So I don't know, what I've been struggling with myself is this is an evolution of a plan, and there was a plan that indicated that there was a basis to then be able to look at the common driveway for these 2 lots. If this were the starting point, I think it would be much more difficult to say that there is actually viable access to the buildable portion of lot 4 from its frontage. And what I honestly can't answer for myself is the fact that this is the evolution of a plan, and we're trying to get to an endpoint, and there are some definite pluses that have come out of this. You know, how does that all shake out?
So one of the thoughts that comes to mind is I could just to go back over this topic again, I could, you know, send a memo or a letter to the board, and I could show the viable access plan that has, you know, two parallel side-by-side driveways with the houses basically where they're shown in this plan. And then say, you know, this is the plan that we want to go with. And the reason that we're deviating from the two driveways is, of course, it's more efficient, less runoff, and in this particular case, it preserves more land for agricultural use. So if that sort of helps that decision point, I think I'd be happy to do that.
Bob, do you think you'd be able to get two driveways with this this May 5th plan, of and by itself as it's laid out? See, that's the question.
Well, I don't know that the common driveway regulation requires that the separate driveways have to be on these particular lot lines. But even if, let's just say for the moment that it did, you know, I suppose we could have a wider driveway that goes along here, and it just could be a continuous grade from lot 3's land to lot 4's land. And that just could, you know, be all one wide driveway that each would have, you know, their side of the dotted line essentially. And, you know, these I think are 15 or 20 feet wide. I'm sorry. So they're certainly wide enough to put a side-by-side driveway within that lot line. But again, if that was necessary, I think we could do that. But I think the point was that we had a viable plan for lots 3 and 4 on the earlier iteration that proves that we can have separate driveways. It's just that in this particular, with the common driveway, we eliminate that.
Right. So I think that's we've kind of bumped into this in other projects where they had to have if I'm trying to articulate this as best I can, and Martha, help me if I misspeak. The driveways would have to be able to be of and on by their right, if you will, with the common plan that's before us. And so, you know, they couldn't be continuous. There'd have to be space between them, and can that fly with this? And this is why we kind of are throwing out the discussion of, does something like this, because I appreciate the energies that you put into that. So that's the first thing. I appreciate the agricultural consideration. I appreciate the changing of the lot lines. I appreciate, you know, the moving of the pole. We're all supportive of that. So to get you to your endpoint, that's why the kind of conversation of this duplex concept is coming into key, because then we don't have to worry about that hurdle of the common driveway. It gets you there easier.
Yeah. Well, I guess what we can do then, we
And
can go
that's
back.
where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, we can go back to our May 1st lot lines here. So without sort of tightening up the lot lines down here, and then I'll just have to add another lot line that essentially is an easement line so that we get the correct amount of agricultural land that I've told you we can get here. Because, you know, right now you can see this lot 4 lot line comes down into that area a little bit. So I was trying to avoid that. But we can, you know, if you don't think it's possible to approve a common driveway with that revision, then we'll go back to this version.
Well, if there's some way to actually tweak those lot lines on the revised version, I mean, I think looking at the agricultural land, as you said, Essex County Greenbelt and Mr. Herrick are both interested in getting as much agricultural land as possible. And probably if they were to do it in fee simple, they would prefer not to do it with with an easement across part of one of the lots. I think the question really is, if you're creating lots on a plan, you need to be able to show that you have viable access from the lot's frontage. And on the May 5th plan, I would question the viability of the access from the frontage for lot 4. You know, I don't see that you could possibly, if you were to do a sweep path analysis, I don't know that you could possibly get a fire truck down there. If there's any way to tweak those lot lines a little bit so that that's not an issue, then, you know, I think problem solved.
Well, I certainly want to make it easy for you guys to say yes. So I'll work on those lot lines, and we can either massage this one a little bit, or we can, as I mentioned, add some easement lines or something like that to make this work.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I mean, to state the obvious, no one here is advocating that we want to see 2 parallel driveways there. It's just, for lack of a better term, a jurisdictional issue before we can,
Okay,
it's a requirement to make that finding before we can issue the common driveway special permit.
okay.
That's my understanding of it. Pete, was there anything else you had?
I think that was kind of it. And again, you know, I appreciate the fluid discussion. I really do, guys. And it's not to give a hard time. It's just trying to get to the end point. And, you know, it's always about getting these projects across the finish line and you know, negotiating all that we have.
Thank you, Pete. George, is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
Yeah, it's come up in mind that if it's not a common driveway, you have two parallel separate driveways, where's the snow throw gonna go? For the center, it's gonna be plowed from the center out because there's no room between them to put snow. So I'd like that talked about a little bit.
Well, I will come back with another plan that shows, you know, again, the viable access, and I'm gonna have to massage these lines a little bit to do that, and I'll leave some gap in between the two driveways so that at least in this theoretical driveway plan, there's adequate room for snow storage.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Woody? Anything further?
No, I don't have any more comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Woody. Mary?
No, I think that these guys have gone a long way to answer our questions and concerns, and I hope they continue to do that because, you know, it's a good plan.
All right, thank you, Mary. Martha, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak?
No, but may I just say one more thing before we go to public comment? Bob, I think it might be helpful also to kind of clarify what the easements are now that you're anticipating. I can't remember, I think it shows up on one of the plans as hatched areas. But you've got the stormwater easement, you've got easements for the driveways, you've got the easement for the septic system on lot 2 for lot 4. Might just be helpful for the board to understand all of that.
Yep, glad to do it.
And Martha, any members of the public?
I'm not seeing anybody with a raised hand. Oh, wait, Scott and Valerie.
Thank you Scott Melanson and Valerie Clark from 173 Orchard Street. Thank you for taking our question. I know this, with everything you've been discussing, really good discussion. Like, it may sound a little bit trivial, but I'm curious on the next plan if you could give an idea of where you might place mailboxes for these homes as well, just to get an idea of where that will be. There's a little traffic around mailboxes, just an idea of what that looks like.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you. Well, I think that was a helpful discussion. I note that the applicant has granted an extension of time for action on the applications until August 1st, 2023. I guess the next step would be, Bob, to wait for your updated plans. Is there anything else, Martha, that we might want to be looking at this point, or looking for?
I can't think of anything offhand.
If you can review the documents that Attorney Keelty prepared, and if we have to make any revisions, just let us know about that. But in the meantime, I'll be working on the plans and addressing the mailbox locations and the common driveway issues that were mentioned tonight.
Good, thank you.
Sounds good. Yes, and we'll review all the documents. If they seem to be in order, we'll send them on to town council for review. If there are any questions or concerns, they may come back to you first.
Great. Well, thank you all very much and good evening.
Well, we appreciate your cooperation, and as Pete says, we're just trying to get it good project to the end stage. And so we'll need a continuance date for the public hearing. Bob, how much time do you think you might like for that?
I think early June's fine.
June 7th is our first meeting in June.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that-
Is that good for you? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to continue. Let's first continue, talk about the subdivision plan. To continue the public hearing on the definitive subdivision plan to our, what was that, June 7, Martha?
Yes,
Meeting at 7:15 PM. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody. Any discussion? Then on a roll call vote, Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. And Mary, I gather you're in accord?
Yes,
Thank you. And now on the common driveway special permit public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to continue that concurrently to June 7th, 2023 at 7:15 PM. Via Zoom, I should say, on both of those. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I think that was George. Thank you, George. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Woody, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pete, how do you vote?
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well. And Mary, I assume you're in agreement.
yes, indeed.
Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Very helpful discussion
Thank
today.
you all. Thank you.
Okay, moving on is our next public hearing is a site plan review approval application for construction of a sidewalk extension and pedestrian walkway and related site improvements on the Governor's Academy campus, Byfield, Mass. at 313 Newburyport Turnpike, map R15, lot 11, parcel 11, and 306 Middle Road, map R15, parcel 5. Owner applicant, the Governor's Academy, 1 Elm Street, Byfield, Mass. And this has been continued from April 19th. So I think just to recap our last meeting, I don't think that there were any serious concerns noted at the end of the meeting. And we did ask staff to draft a decision based on the board's discussion. But I understand a revised plan has been submitted for the board's consideration, which still needs peer review. And we haven't yet gone through the site plan review decision criteria, so we probably want to do that tonight. So if the applicant could just bring us up to speed on the revisions to the layout of the pathway. Tom, is that you or Mark?
Mark, do you want to cover the sort of changes, the summary of
Sure.
changes?
I had a little issue last time with doing a screen share, so either Tom or Martha, maybe you could pull the plan up. Probably, I'm thinking sheet C1 would be good.
I'm gonna have to find it, Tom, if you've got it handy, if you beat me to it.
Great, there we go. So everybody can see that plan?
Can you make it a little bigger,
Yeah,
please?
okay. So, I think there's generally 3 changes that aren't super significant, but starting at the area of where the boardwalk crosses between the 2 large boulders. Yeah, right there. Actually, let me take us one step back quickly. Tom met with a contractor on site that's done a lot of work with these types of installations and had some suggestions that we considered, and Tom and Wendy and I got together and kind of talked them all through. And what we decided to do was, there was some concern about the ability of the 5-foot wide boardwalk with the structure underneath it to be able to fit through those boulders. So there was some talk about maybe trying to realign it around it. We didn't want to do that. So what we did was raised it up literally just a few inches, maybe about 6 inches, to provide a little more clearance where it goes through the rocks, the big boulders. So we call for it to be at that point 24 inches above the existing grade. And we also flattened out that section as it goes through the boulders, which is fine because remember that it's got a significant open area in the decking. So we can have it actually flat and still drain properly and whatnot. So that was one change. And then when we get to right there was some concern that the pathway that we had went up through those two large trees and then alongside the ledge outcrop area, just where Tom has got his hand going. So what we decided to do was to instead route the pathway around the trees to avoid the ledge outcrop, which will give us some flexibility relative to the tree roots and whatnot too, which actually addresses further one of Joe's Sawaka's comments on the original review, where he was concerned about the ledge coming into play and then concerned about tree roots. So what we decided at that point was that our response was that we will do some field adjustments as need be, and this essentially we think mitigates that. So this was reviewed conceptually with Sam in conservation, and I think it's the changes was well received. So we understand that we're going to have to go back before conservation at the appropriate time after going through the planning board. So but that's one change right there. And then if we go a little bit further, where the pathway goes along the facilities driveway, there was a little concern that we were showing a little bit of a cut there where the surface of the pathway would be slightly below the, few inches below the adjacent Cape Cod berm on the driveway. So what we decided to do is just raise that up a little bit, which, literally, a few inches, which got it to be the same elevation as the adjacent Cape Cod berm. And so we don't have to worry then about water running down the pathway and acting like a channel. So, stormwater. Similarly, we also had the pathway pop out onto the driveway just below the existing catch basin where, right about there. So it used to come out at the existing curb cut area, and we dropped it, observing how this was working during recent rainstorms, we saw that water was going through that curb opening and running right down the pathway area. So what we decided to do was adjust it a little bit to get the stormwater from the pavement area around the facilities buildings to go into that catch basin before it gets to the pathway. And the curb cut that's open there right now will be closed up to help manage that water. The place where it hits the driveway on the other side, that has not changed. So the crosswalk is just at a little bit more of an angle than it was before. So that is really the changes, other than maybe one last thing that's more conservation related is on the wetland replication area. We tweaked that detail a little bit as it addresses the tree and whatnot, that there was some concern that the tree was not going to be able to be saved. So we've adjusted that too, and we talked about it with Sam as well, and we think it's going to be fine. So that is it as far as the changes go. So we're calling it a revision, but it's really just a little bit of an evolution, and which we think is addressing some things that would probably have come up in the field during construction and whatnot. And this just, saves us having to then go back to conservation as well as your board, and with some amendments at that time, so I think we were happy to be able to capture these things now.
Okay, thank you. Anything further at this point, Mark?
The only thing was, Tom had, on behalf of the school, had sent a letter to the board that I believe you all have received, speaking about lighting and things like that. And in that letter, Tom also mentioned about these plan modifications. So, Tom could be happy to go over that, some of the lighting stuff, if you have any further discussion on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if there are any questions regarding the lighting, information about the lighting that we researched, and happy to address any of the questions that raised. Would you like a review of sort of the questions that were raised last meeting, and then the the findings that we came to?
I don't know. Let me first turn to Martha before I go to the board members. Martha, anything you wanted to add to this?
Not really. Kristen, Sam and I went out and walked it the other morning, yesterday morning, and understand all the changes, and they all seem to make sense in the field. I think, especially going around the trees, it seems to work better with the grade than the previous plan does. And then just to note, we did have some fair amount of discussion about the lighting as well. And concerns there had been the color temperature of the lights, whether the bollards needed to continue down the driveway on the west side of Middle Road, and some of the other things which Tom can address if the board would like to. But otherwise, the alignment layout seems to make sense.
Okay. All right, Tom, is there anything you'd like to add about the lighting that we haven't?
No, nothing that I didn't address in the letter, and I'm happy to speak to any particular points on the lighting or scheduling of illumination or motion detection that were raised. But if anybody would like, I'm happy to speak to any of them specifically, and if not,
Well, let me turn to the board members and see if they have any questions. Pete, do you have any?
Tell us about the homework that you did from the last time.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Yes, I'd like to hear what Tom had to say about lighting,
Oh,
just so if anybody from the public wants to hear what the conversation looks like and where it's at now.
all right. You can sum that up then.
okay, I'll try and be brief. I think the first question was regarding color and whether or not there was a lower Kelvin scale lighting option from the vendor that we are working with. The answer to that question was yes. The downside to moving to a lower, they offer a true amber lighting color, that the downside being that it reduces the output by 70% of the light. So the spacing of those would need to be tightened up greatly. I think the spacing currently is somewhere between 40 and 50 feet on center. And so it would need to, get closer than half of that, I believe. And anecdotally from the lighting manufacturer, the typical use for that color lighting is in shorefront properties, shorefront beach environments where turtle nesting and turtle habitat is a concern. And so with the color, that was what I learned. And I think the direction the school would like to go would be to not increase the light spacing and go with that amber option. Regarding switching or scheduling of lighting illumination on the path, I learned that you can definitely set these up on a motion activated switch circuit. But with that comes some complications. I think these would be two separate light circuits, one on the lower side of Middle Road, that being the west side, and then one on the east side. And so how you have these switch on, you would have to have a motion detection device for the first section. And then when you'd cross the road, there would have to be another motion detection device that would trigger the rest of the lights. In my experience, in my practical experience on campus, those are fairly unreliable. We have a lot of lighting circuits that are controlled by photocells, and those are typically wired when they fail with the light on. This, with the light being off, if these devices failed, they would stay off and not illuminate the path if someone were to enter it. Additionally, the lighting manufacturing rep that we have been speaking with sort of reported his experience is that frequently these devices don't trigger the lights soon enough. So in essence, you're entering the path, and by the time you're on it or well into the path in need of the light illuminating the path, it's too late by the time the motion detection activates the light. So it creates a safety concern there. So that's why we would like to stay away from any sort of motion detection switching like that. The other question that was raised was regarding scheduling of the lights, if it was possible to schedule the lighting to be on during campus intended occupancy or use of the path. And again, with that, we feel the school administration and our safety committee feel that that is would lead to an unsafe condition on the path. We can anticipate the intended use, but we can't cover all actual uses. It will be used outside of the normal campus, student hours. And I don't think liability wise or safety wise, we want to put the path in a condition of being unlit when somebody might use it. People do walk around campus late at night and early in the morning, outside of the hours when we would anticipate that students would use it. So our campus standard is to keep outdoor lighting, pathway lighting for both safety, safety and security reasons lit during the dawn to dusk hours. I hope those are sort of the 3 points I think that were raised and I wanted to address. Can I answer any questions or speak more about any of those?
And Tom, I think you meant dusk to dawn, not dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Did we lose Larry?
He just said he's lost connection. So do you want to take a
Okay.
pause while he tries to come back, or?
Sure. Let's see if anyone else has questions. George, do you have any questions, sir?
No, I don't, but thanks, Tom, for giving us the information about the lighting. I was concerned about the security issue too, and I'm glad you're hanging on to that. Thank you.
Woody, any questions, sir?
No, I don't have any questions. The information's been helpful. I have no questions.
Beautiful. Mary, do you have any questions?
No, it was answered with the dawn to dusk. The dawn to dusk issue kind of stumped me, so I'm glad Martha brought it up.
Okay. Okay. If we could stop screen sharing, that'd be helpful. Okay. I'm going to kind of punt here. Martha, are there any questions from the public?
I am not seeing any questions from the public, no raised hands. Larry apparently was trying to reconnect but failed. He'll try again.
Okay.
I'm going to see if maybe he needs to reboot his computer.
Right. So maybe during this time while Larry's coming back on board, maybe we should go through our criteria. Martha, if you could just kind of lead that discussion, that might be helpful.
Sure, let me see if I can bring that up on the screen.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. Just a sec. All right, are you able to see that now?
Can you make it a little bigger, Martha, please?
Let me see if I can do that. It's on the web page, so I'm not sure how much control I actually have here. Hold on a sec. All right. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
That's better.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Larry's still trying. All right, so we haven't been through these for a while, but as you recall, there are a number of decision criteria that the board needs to go through in making a site plan review decision. So Pete, would you like me to go through them sort of one by one?
That would be great, sure. And then we can see if there are any concerns as we go through them.
All right, so the first one is sort of 6 parts of 1, which is to minimize, and I think generally we sort of had a yay or a nay for each one, or do you want to take them as a group?
We could, let's follow what we've done in the past, which is a yay or nay.
Okay, so first one is minimize the volume of cut and fill.
Does anyone have any concerns with regards to that? Okay, I don't hear anything. Okay, how about the next?
Next is minimize the number of removed trees 6 inches caliber or larger.
Any concerns from anyone? Okay.
All right, the next one is the area of wetland vegetation displaced.
Okay, any concerns there? And this will be going back to conservation after it's through us. Is that correct, Martha?
That's correct. We talked with, well, Mark and Tom and Wendy talked with Sam about that on at our site visit, and it will be going back as an amendment. So they're trying to get that on in June.
I'd also like to point out that it has been, we do have a valid order of conditions for the project already. So this would be an amendment to that.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay, continuing on.
So the next one is soil erosion.
Any concerns from any members? Okay,
Some shaking heads. Threat of air and water pollution.
any concerns?
No.
Okay,
And the last one in this is traffic congestion.
hopefully we're good there. Anyone?
So I think that's
Good.
not applicable.
Yep.
So, and just one slight caveat here, this still is going, Joe has it for review, so if he has any comments on these, they'll come back, but we'll have a chance to review that when we go through the decision. Next one is avoid removal of existing stone walls, or where removal is required, minimize length of removal. I don't think there are any stone walls being removed on this, are there?
Yeah. I didn't think so.
And Mark, Tom, or Wendy, if you have anything to add for those.
Boy, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember stepping over any along the path yesterday, but it was, there are some stone walls in the area.
Yeah,
But
this probably the remnant of a stone wall beside the road, but I think
Yeah.
we're bridging over it, and it's
yeah,
it's not a wall any longer. It's more a pile of rubble.
Right.
there are a lot of stones in the wetlands, but the area and obviously the 2 large boulders that we are intentionally not disturbing.
Right. So any concerns about that one?
Okay.
All right, next one is provide adequate stormwater management and other utilities consistent with the requirements of Newbury's stormwater bylaw and the planning board subdivision rules and regulations.
Any concerns? No concerns? Continuing.
D is maximize safety for pedestrians and vehicles both on the site and entering onto and egressing from it.
Concerns? Okay,
The next one is provide adequate access to each structure for fire and emergency service equipment.
no concerns. Okay, continuing.
minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations.
Concerns? None? Okay, continuing.
H, minimize inclusion, oops, I'm sorry. G, minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, or other outdoor service areas reviewed from public ways or premises residentially used or zoned. And some of these obviously are not applicable, really.
No,
Okay, no concerns. Continuing on.
Okay, the next one is minimize intrusion of glare from headlights and site lighting on surrounding properties.
Okay, we've talked about that. Any concerns?
no,
All right, next one, minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. Not really applicable.
Continuing.
Prevent contamination of groundwater from any source.
Concerns? Okay,
Enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other site amenities.
any concerns?
no,
All
Okay,
right. Minimize impacts of the use on adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation, deliveries, noise, rubbish removal, and on-site storage.
any concerns? All right,
And finally, ensure compliance with the provisions of Newbury zoning bylaw, including parking and signs.
any concerns? Okay, still good. All right,
All right, shall I drop that?
you can. All right, so we still have Joe's comments that need to be brought back to the board. Is that right, Martha?
That's correct.
Okay, so let me just get a sense from the board, if there's a sense that we can have a decision to be drafted. Where are you with that, George?
I'm in favor.
Okay, Woody?
Yes, I'm in favor as well.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
yes, indeed. I am.
Okay, all right. We'll hopefully have any questions from Joe. If he has any questions, that can be directed to the applicant and they can be directed accordingly. That being the case, Martha, I think it'd probably be appropriate to start the drafting process.
Right, and it actually has been started. Kristen started it. So now that we've gone through the decision criteria, we can flush that out. And then if there are any comments from Joe, we can facilitate that dialogue between him and Mark and Tom and Wendy so that we can get those addressed. And if there are any revisions that need to be made, hopefully they could be made in time for at the same time that the decision gets reviewed and all incorporated.
All right, then I guess I'll go back to you now, Martha. When do you think that we should bring this back before the board?
Well, the decision is started. There are actually 2 weeks between this meeting and the next meeting. So it seems to me that it could be feasible to have it on the 7th as well.
Let me see if that's good with the applicant. Team Governor, is that good for you for our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks?
Now, I guess the
Yes,
only
yes.
question, yeah,
Okay.
I guess my only question would be, since this is going back before conservation for an amendment,
Should we wait?
yeah,
What is-
would there be any benefit? But if they're waiting for planning board, it's a little chicken and egg question here.
Right,
When is the next conservation meeting?
It'll be in
Full
2
government.
weeks.
June 20th.
June 20th, okay.
So it'll be right before our next meeting. Woody.
Yep.
So you'd be going to conservation before you'd be coming to us. So would the chicken be hatching the egg first, or would the egg be coming to the chicken? So
My preference would be to complete with the board, and then I can't imagine at this point, since we already have an order of conditions in hand, Sam has reviewed the changes, at the meeting that we had and whatnot, and didn't seem to have an issue with anything. I think it's pretty safe to get board approval if you so vote. And then I think and then we just can kind of wrap things up, clean things up with conservation on the 20th.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. And I see our chair is back. Larry, we're just about,
I'm on a different device, so
we're just about to select the date for the continuation. It's looking like in 2 weeks, so I'm going to hand the gavel over to you.
okay. Thank you, Pete. So basically, we just need a continuance date.
Yes, we went through the decision criteria. Nobody had any issues with anything. So I guess I would just ask you at this point, if you had a chance to go through them, if you had any concerns about it.
I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
Okay, so then I guess we need what's the suggested date again?
The 7th, June 7th.
Okay, so would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until June 7th, 2023 at 7:15 PM via Zoom. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Woody. Is there a second?
Second,
Second, can't see everyone. I think that was George.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay, Woody
thank
made the motion. Okay, and I can't remember. I'm sorry, did you say 7:15 on that date?
Yes. Yep. Is that what you want?
Yes,
Okay.
just wasn't sure.
Any discussion? Hearing none, then Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
yes,
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. And Mary, I assume you're in agreement?
And I am in agreement.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thanks, everyone. And I'm sorry about the difficulty there. So the next item on the agenda is 68 Green Street, Farmview Lane, request from Michael DeSantis of Crane Properties LLC for approval of a revised grading plan for Lot 2 and also approval to use asphalt instead of gravel for the wearing surface on the driveway for Lot 2. So would someone, I think TJ Melvin is with us and is going to give a presentation.
TJ wasn't planning on doing a presentation, but he's here to answer any questions if the board has any questions about the grading. I'm happy to share my screen and walk everyone through it. We were on with conservation, I believe 2 weeks ago or a week ago for the approval of this grading plan too, because it was within the wetland buffer. So that was approved by conservation. And now we are in front of the board because we have a potential buyer for the lot, but they're interested in paving the driveway. And obviously the approval was for gravel driveways. So we brought it up to Martha to see if the board and the town would be okay with it, just to appease this buyer, because I think it's a sticking point for them. So.
Okay. Let's take up the grading first. I think under the decision, the grading plan was supposed to be submitted to our peer review engineer and to Martha before issuance of the building permit. Is that your understanding, Martha?
That is what the decision says.
Okay. And is there any reason from your point of view that we can't refer that back to you?
I think that we do need to get Joe's comments on it. It's actually, it's fair change. Mike, I don't know if you want to actually walk the board through it a little bit. The one that was approved previously, the original NOI plan and what's being proposed now.
Yep, I have. So I have the proposed one up, and let me just find the old one for you all. So we were before conservation originally. Everyone could see from what's up on my screen. With the grading here, it was calling for essentially with the water table and everything here too, is calling for a walkout basement. And we were interested in filling the land more to make it so that we could do a full basement with a walk off the first floor, because just a lot of the feedback we were getting and just what the land is back there and just how flat it is and quite beautiful if anyone's been to the lot. We were more interested in a lot of the buyers that were reaching out were more interested in walking off the first floor. So we decided to come in front of the board because in order to do that, we had to obviously grade within the buffer zone and within where the silt fence line was approved. So this was the grading plan prior to that, which was submitted. And then these are the changes we made to bring up the grade on the lot and then gradually grade it down. In the back, we didn't need to move the silt fence line, but we did need to move it in the area of disturbance here on the south side of the lot.
And can you or TJ say, tell us what the slope is now on,
TJ, I believe it's a 3-to-1 now, correct?
Yes,
side?
yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me turn to the board members. Pete, do you have any questions, comments?
And just so the board and the public can understand, if you could, Mike, just let us know the starting grade of elevation and what it would going down to, just so people could understand that 3-to-1.
Yeah, the starting elevation or garage elevation first floor here is 24. And then we grade all the way down to about, the silt fence line will be about between 15 and 16. So if you see the 16 line kind of travels along here, we're only changing it up till this point, and then we're tying into where it was already 16 here. So yeah, we're going from about 24 to 16 over that span.
And if I remember for conservation, was there going to be a fence that was going to be put down at the lower end of that to just demarcate the resource area?
So once I'm going to meet out there with Sam once the appeal period is over, and we're going to look at what makes the most sense. I think there was talk about either split rail fence or granite markers with wetland signs on them. I think, or even boulders. I think we don't like the idea of a fence because we don't want to make it seem like that is the property line, because the property line is down here, actually. So I think what we've just been emailing back and forth too with Millennium, and then I let Sam know that I think we'll probably just do the granite markers or some sort of marker, tall marker here to identify the area disturbance.
Okay, I thought we had agreed upon boulders, but I might be confused.
Yeah, the approval said a choice of either fencing, boulders, or I don't know if it stated granite markers or some sort of marker. I think we were all just going to meet on site and see what made the most sense.
And Martha, just for clarification, Joe has or has not looked at this?
he has received it, but we haven't gotten comments back.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's all I have right now, Larry. Thank you.
All right, thank you. George?
Yeah, I have no questions, Larry. Thank you.
Okay, Woody?
Clarification, this plan that's up on the screen now is already gone through conservation?
Correct.
No.
It
Okay.
has.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mary?
I don't have anything. Larry, thank you.
I don't either. Martha, and bear with me, I'm still having some connectivity problems on this device too. Everything is frozen. I do have audio. So I don't know if I'm gonna lose you again. So Martha, what it seems to me what are our options here, Martha? Let me ask you.
Well, I guess, so you can hear us okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
So, and basically the decision does say, as Joe was, just to backtrack a little bit, Joe was concerned about stormwater management on the site and, impact on wetlands. So he had suggested that we have a condition in the decision stating that the grading plan for each of the lots should be submitted to him and to me for review prior to a building permit being issued. I think we're a little past that, but I think that it could be appropriate to just refer it back to us and see what comments Joe has. And then if we can, if there are any any concerns or considerations, then we can work with the applicant on that.
All right, well, that seems consistent with the original decision, so. Any further discussion by any of the board members on Martha's suggestion?
No, Larry, I'd make a motion then, just to get it back to Joe, for review.
Joe and Martha, I assume.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I think I heard Woody. Any further discussion? And hearing none, Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. And Mary,
Yes, yes, yes.
I've even lost, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I've completely lost any video. Pete, would you mind taking this from here? Because this is very awkward.
Sure, not at all. So Martha, and you might have to help me with this. Now, if we're talking about changing the driveway to asphalt, that's actually going to be a modification of the approved plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Because all the driveways were shown as gravel, as was the roadway. And that's how I
correct.
remember. Okay.
Right. The board granted a waiver to allow for the gravel surface instead of asphalt on the roadway. And the plans were shown as being gravel throughout.
Okay, great. Could we stop screen sharing at this point?
Yeah, I can stop.
Okay, thank you. So, board members, I'm going to throw this out now to kind of for a point of something to think about. So we have, one individual who like to pave their driveway as part of the purchase, which is aberrant to what we approved for the approval. And if we just play this out, we have then neighbor number 2 sees that neighbor number 1 paved their gravel driveway. So neighbor number 2 is going to want to pave their driveway. Then neighbor number 3 is going to look and say, oh, well, the paving truck's over there. Can we have them come over here and do a deal? And neighbor number 3 gets that done. And then while we're at it, let's just pave the road. So I just want to play this out. So how is that going to affect our overall stormwater management plan? Because we are now taking a pervious surface and making it impervious. And so that's one thing I want to ask the board to think about. And as I'm asking the board to think about that, I'm asking the applicant also to think about if they want to have this now reviewed again with regards to what changes it's going to affect on stormwater management. So first, I'm going to go to Larry. Do you want to start your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you summarized it pretty well, Pete. And the problem is, I don't know that we have enough information, to make an informed decision on it, quite frankly. I mean, we don't know what effect. Well, let me step back a minute, and I don't know if this question's been asked, but how long is this new proposed driveway?
It's about 600 feet.
600-foot driveway?
Yeah.
Oh,
If everybody wants to know, I do not want to pave this driveway, but I'm here to appease the possible buyer. So I was happy with your recommendation for gravel driveway. So
okay. Yeah, that's that's a big driveway, and it's how wide?
TJ might know this better, but I believe it's about, TJ, is it 12 feet wide?
I was gonna say, 12.
Yeah.
One thing I would, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's starting to sound to me like a major modification.
Okay, so I guess that's the question now before the board. If we're looking at this, if this is a minor modification or a major modification, and I just heard from Larry is feeling that this might be a major modification. What are your thoughts? Woody, your thoughts?
Well, hearing what I've heard now and with no review from Joe, I would be leaning towards more of a major modification with the driveway being 600 feet long. So.
All right. Thanks, Woody. George, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, the amount of pavement involved would have a significant effect upon the drainage as needed. We have no factors on that. We just don't know what effect it would be for sure.
Okay, all right. And so your thought is it'd be major or
Major.
minor, George? Okay,
Major.
great. Thank you, George. And Mary, your thoughts?
Major.
Okay, all right. So kind of seeing that, Mike, well, let me ask you, Martha or Kristen, do you want to make any comments at this point in time for the board?
I would just, I mean, to me, it does seem like a significant change from the approved plan. You know, we haven't gotten the comments back from Joe in terms of what the impact might be on stormwater management. The factor is probably not huge between gravel and asphalt, but there is certainly some. You're going to a completely impervious surface.
Okay, so
TJ, did you want to say? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Pete, but I don't know if TJ wanted to.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to jump in until we were allowed to. So, Mr. Chair, if it's okay if I hop in now or at the end of the comments?
Go ahead, TJ.
Just to kind of follow up on Martha's comments, you know, in my opinion, the way that we have it modeled now is a gravel surface in poor soils. So not to get too technical, but the runoff coefficient for gravel is 96. The runoff coefficient for pavement is 98. In comparison for woods kind of in the same soil is roughly between 70 and 80. So it's not a huge change from a stormwater perspective, but just obviously we'd have to provide the calculations and ensure it works, but just wanted to kind of give the board that information that due to the soils and everything, it's not a major change from gravel to impervious drainage wise.
Thanks, TJ.
Well-
Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, the problem is, from our point of view, is we really don't, as I said earlier, don't have the information, enough information to make an informed decision on it. Maybe the thing to do is just to continue this matter and give Joe Sawicka an opportunity to weigh in on it. And maybe that might change our view of it, whether it could be considered a major versus a minor modification. That would be my suggestion at this point.
So would you like a motion to continue this discussion? Is this, yep, so we're still, Martha,
And it's not a hearing, but you know, the board could
yeah, right,
certainly.
okay, so we don't, yeah, so Mike, do you want to give it a couple weeks and then come back, or do you want to have a further discussion internally?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably discuss it internally, and I mean, I'd be very interested to hear what Joe has to say. I didn't realize he was actually reviewing the driveway as well. I thought he was just reviewing the grading, but if he has an opinion on it, I'd love to hear it, just so I know if he agrees it's a big change or if it is kind of a minor change, and I can just let the homeowner know, or the potential homeowner know. You know, I mean, my thing is if they're going to walk because they can't pave their driveway, I'd like to try to keep a buyer, but I agree with what the board's saying is as soon as they do it, the other two
Yeah.
do it. So I'm with you guys 100% on that.
Right, and when, if I may, when the approval was granted, the waiver for the roadway, having it be gravel instead of pavement, was really to be consistent with the rural character and of the area and that kind of thing. So once you start paving the entire thing, which could certainly, this could open this up for that, that is a significant change.
Yeah, I understand. I agree. So yeah, I mean, I guess to answer your question, Pete, we'll meet internally, and I know Martha will be in touch once Joe gets back with any comments, and we'll if it's worth pursuing further, then I guess we will. But
So we could put this on for old business at the June 7th meeting.
Yeah, well, we don't have to set a date for it now. You can work that out because it's not a public hearing, so.
Right.
okay.
Very good, okay, Mike, and TJ, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good to see everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you.
Bye.
Larry, I'll keep driving.
Please do, Pete.
What I see next is 3 Newburyport Turnpike, a request from TJ Melvin, Millennium Engineering on behalf of Varo Family Realty 2 LLC for an extension of time for completion of work to July 2024. A site plan review approval was granted on 5/19 of 2021. So the first question is, would you like that to be July 1st or July 31st of 2024, TJ?
I would say July 31st, just to be safe. But we do anticipate
July-
having a majority of the work done come fall, but just in case there's any setbacks, kind of give us the spring to finish up.
Okay, is there a motion to grant an extension for completion of the project to July 31st of 2024?
So moved.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Woody. On the motion, George, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Larry, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote, sir?
yes,
Mary, how do you feel?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in favor as well. Beautiful. Thanks very much. And then next would be 84 Boston Road, request from TJ Melvin, Millennium Engineering on behalf of K&R Construction Company for extension of time for completion of work to July of 2024. Site plan review approval was granted on 5/19 of 2021. Again, the question, TJ, would you like July 1st or July 31st of 2024 for your extension?
July 31st, please.
Okay, great. Therefore, I'd accept the motion to grant the requested extension for completion of the project for July 31st of 2024.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
second,
Thank you, Woody. Discussion, Larry? I didn't ask
No
discussion last
discussion.
time. Discussion, George?
None.
Discussion, Woody?
none,
Discussion, Mary?
No.
Okay, well, great. Larry, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thanks very much. George, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, George. Woody?
yes,
Thank you, sir. Mary, how do you feel?
Yes.
Okay, and I am in favor as well. Thanks, TJ. Extensions are great.
Thank you all.
All right. Martha, did you button up all your director's report?
Yes.
Larry, was there anything else that you had, sir?
Nope, I don't. I just apologize for all the technical problems, but at least we got through it. Thank you, Pete, for your help.
My pleasure. I'll let you close the meeting, sir.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Woody. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pete. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes, and good night, everyone.
Good night. Mary?
Woody.
you're-
Yes, thank you very much, Martha and Larry. And Pete, thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I vote yes as well on the motion to adjourn. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, Martha. Thanks, Kristen.